So this is the woven stripe stitch. You can see where it gets its name from because it kind of has a woven structure to it. It's quite a dense fabric, but I don't think it's too thick that it doesn't have a drape. It still has quite a nice drape. You can see on the reverse it has kind of textured pearl bumps, which is also quite nice. I love this fabric because I kind of think it looks like a mock farewell, which I think a lot of slip stitch patterns do when they're worked with multiple colours, because you get kind of the texture but also like stitch definition, and it always looks a lot more complex than it actually is. Like this is quite a simple 4-row repeat, and you work it in 3 colours, and 1 row in each colour is worked throughout, and you keep in the same sequence. For example, I'm using this blue as colour 1 and this lime colour as colour 2 and brown as colour 3, and so I'll always use them in this order. So I'll work 1 row in the blue, the 2nd row in the lime colour, and the 3rd row in the brown, and I'll keep swapping throughout like that. So it's a 4-row repeat, but you're kind of left to your own devices with the colour, so you just need to swap the colour after every row, and there's no need to cut the yarns. The right colour should be waiting at the end of the row, which is also a great benefit of this stitch. So the yarn I'm using is kind of like an Aran weight yarn, but obviously you can use whatever yarn you want. I'm using 5mm needles as well, and this is worked flat. So the first thing you need to do is cast on a multiple of 2 stitches plus 1 additional stitch, and I'm going to use the long tail cast on, which will leave me with the first row being a wrong side row. So that's good to know that you can do any cast on you like, but for these instructions the first row will be a wrong side row. So I'm just going to cast on now. So now to work the setup row. So this is the setup row. This isn't the 4-row sequence. This is just the setup row. You're going to turn your work and start to work 1 row in pearl. So still using this first colour, which is blue for me, I'm going to just purl 1 row just to set up. And this just leaves quite a neat edge at the bottom, really. So we purled 1 row, so I'm just going to turn that round and show you how that looks now. So now we're ready to start our 4-row repeat, and for row 1 we're going to use our next colour, which is the lime in my sequence. So I'm going to bring the lime in, and then we're going to knit the first stitch with the new colour, just like this, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip 1 with the yarn in front. So to do that, you bring the yarn to the front of the work like that and slip the next stitch over to the right needle, and you can see this yarn is at the front. So now I'm going to bring it to the back to work the next stitch, and you can see how it just sits over that stitch, and that's a lot how the texture is created in this pattern. So that's just the repeat. So I'm going to knit the next stitch and then bring the yarn to the front, slip the next stitch purlwise and take the yarn to the back, ready to knit the next stitch. So that is all you do for the rest of the row. Bring the yarn forward, slip the stitch purlwise onto the right needle, yarn to the back and knit the next stitch. So that is row 1 of the pattern. So for row 2, which is going to be a wrong side row, I'm going to introduce my third colour, which is my brown. So for the next row, for row 2, you're just going to purl all the stitches, so that's a really easy one. So just introduce the third colour, purl all the stitches. So that is row 2 now done. I'm just going to turn my work again. So that's the front of the work, and you can see it looks like this. So for row 3, you're going to use the first colour. So the next colour in the sequence is blue, and you can see this is at the correct end of my work already, and you kind of will automatically know what colour to go for because it's not the colour you've just worked, it's whichever other colour is at the end of the row. So for this one we're using blue, and this is row 3, and we're gonna, very similar to row 1, but the first 2 stitches we're gonna knit, and this just offsets the pattern a little bit. So the first 2 stitches are knit, and then you slip one with the yarn in front. So we're just doing what we were going to do last time. You bring the yarn to the front and slip the stitch purlwise onto the right needle, bring the yarn to the back and knit the next stitch. And that is the sequence for the row again. So you bring your yarn to the front, slip the stitch to the right, bring the yarn to the back and knit the next stitch. And just repeat that for the rest of the row. And now I've got to the end of my sequence. That's 1 knit stitch, and you would never slip the last stitch with the yarn in the front, so you're going to knit the last stitch. So for this row, the first and last 2 stitches are knitted, and you can see that where the slips are is the opposite to where the first ones were done, so the pattern starts to emerge. And now turn the work, and for row 4, which is a wrong side row, it's a purl. So all wrong side rows are purl. So if you were working this in the round, you would just for rows 2 and 4 knit all the stitches instead. So the next colour in my sequence is the lime colour. So for this row, I'm going to use the lime to purl all the stitches. And that is the 4-row repeat. So now I can start row 1 again using the next colour in my sequence, which is the brown. So I can do knit 1, slip 1, knit 1, slip 1 with yarn in front, and just keep working in this way.